Now let's wait for it to say that we are on and we are live. Hey guys, how you going? So today on BKRsport, obviously we've never done one of these live stream, tipping before. I don't say Q&A, tipping before. We've never done one of these. Usually, obviously, we only do our live streams for the games, but today I decided, due to the fact that my computer is just an absolute mess right now in regards to trying to actually create videos and film videos and put them out there for you guys to see, I decided that no matter what, I still want to chuck out a tipping video because we are getting to that point of the season, the pointy end. We're at round 22. There's only 3 more rounds after this round to go before we do get into the finals, where I thought, you know what, let's try something new. Let's do some tips here live with you guys. I'll go through each individual game. I'll tell you my thoughts on each individual game. I'll give you a few statistics and all, whatnot, and then I'm going to open it up to you guys in the chat, and I'll take 1 or 2 questions depending on time, and I'll answer your questions about the individual game that we are speaking about. Like I said, we are going to go through all 8 individual games. First off is the Storm Raiders. We do have the Dragons, Panthers, Broncos, Roosters, Rabbitohs, Titans, Cowboys, Tigers, Seagulls, Eels, Warriors, Bulldogs, and Sharks, Knights. And this weekend is actually, it's an interesting weekend. It is a very interesting weekend because although there are games where you do believe, where it's pretty obvious who the winner is more than likely going to be, I think the odds are pretty outrageous, to be completely honest with you. And I think that a lot of the time when you get to this point in the end of the season is that you see a kind of a lot of things that shock you. That's what happens because teams are fighting for the 8. They're fighting to, for example, the Dogs to avoid the spoon. The Storm and Panthers and Rabbitohs arguably are all in that battle for that minor premiership because, guys, the Rabbitohs are still there. The Rabbitohs are in 3rd position, and with a win here this week, they can actually jump up to 2nd, but equal on points with the Storm if, however, the Storm did lose to the Raiders. But we're going to go through all those statistics through here. But yeah, look, it's going to be quite interesting. It is going to be quite interesting. But if you are checking this live stream out after we've already been live, I am going to put the timestamps in the description so you can check out which game and when we're talking about which game and whatnot. I kind of want this to go for about probably half an hour to an hour. We don't know how long we'll go. I've never done one of these before, but let's get straight to the first game. So like I said, guys, I will focus on the game individually, and then I'm going to open it up to the chat and I'll ask you guys what your main question is about this game or about one of the 2 teams in the game that I'm talking about, and so let's get going. So first game obviously is the Storm versus the Raiders. Now the Storm obviously they do sit in 1st position and the Raiders do sit in 8th position. Now the last result between these 2 teams, the Storm did win 34-10. Now if my math is incorrect here, do forgive me. I did have a quick little squiz, but the Storm have won 18 in a row. I don't know if it's exactly 18, it could be either 17 or 19. I don't know, but they're basically I think they're only 2 wins away from taking the record for most amount of wins in a row in rugby league history. Raiders can finish in 7th with a win here and the Titans loss, but can finish as low as 10th with a loss, plus Knights or Sharks win, Dragons win as well. That's basically how the Raiders can go throughout this. The Storm, I don't think that they can drop anywhere lower than 1st position, obviously. So, if they were to lose and the Panthers were to win, the Rabbitohs were to win, the Panthers would literally have to make up a 164 difference, which is just absolutely not happening, obviously. And the Rabbitohs is even worse. It's literally 200 and whatever difference, and that tells you how good this Storm team actually is, obviously. All right, so when you go into this game, look, the Storm are paying $1.07, Raiders are paying $9, and the handicap is minus 23.5. I think that's absolutely outrageous, to be honest with you. I really do. I think that's absolutely outrageous. Look, I think the Storm are obviously a fantastic team. They are number 1 for a reason. They are completely dominating the league right now, and every single game they're winning. Besides that Panthers game earlier on in the season, where obviously they probably would have won that if they did win. They would have won if Justin Olam had to pass the ball, but obviously he did not pass the ball. So you can't really go and have a look too much at that, but he didn't pass the ball, so it is what it is. But yeah, you go back all the way to that beginning part of the season, and that was the only real loss that we've seen, and that was to the Panthers. But things have changed dramatically since then. When it comes to the Storm recently, look, obviously they did beat the Manly Seagulls, but it was a bit of an interesting one at that. They did kind of take a while to get going. Like they were up 8-0 in the first, I don't know, probably 20 minutes or so, and then with about 4 minutes to go, they actually gave up obviously a penalty and a try. It was all over the shop, and then it was actually 8-0 real quickly, obviously through the Jason Saab intercept. I think the Storm were better in that game than people are giving them credit for. I think Manly obviously did stick around, but Manly's defence was incredible, and Storm couldn't penetrate that at the start. They really struggled to, but they kind of came home strongly in the end. the Storm are a good team. They should be winning this game, and they should be winning this game well. But I just don't know about this minus 23 handicap. I think that's kind of outrageous. The Rays are still fighting for a top 8 position here. Like I said, with a win and a Titans loss, they would jump into 7th position, despite any kind of, doesn't matter what points differential, they will be in 7th position. And then, with a loss, they go below the Knights or the Sharks and the Dragons if they were to win. So I think this is a really crucial game here for the Raiders. I am going to take the Storm. By I'm going to go 12. The reason why I say 12 is because the Rays also used to be the Storm's bogey team, and that's what I feel like people aren't really weighing into account. I think that most people are looking at this game head on as, okay, the Rays are 9th. They haven't exactly looked great this year at all. Obviously more so worse at the beginning of the year, and now recently in recent weeks they've started to, I don't know, pick it up a little bit, but in the same sense, they still got pumped by the Titans just a few weeks ago. Yes, they beat Manly, but that was with no Trebojevic, that was with no Schuster, that was with no Cherry Evans. Yes, they beat the Dragons, but the Dragons are really, they're still quite diabolical, let's be honest with you. So for me, the Rays haven't really done a great deal about proving themselves with these wins, and the Sharks aren't exactly fantastic either, and they've got their own issues too, and that's who they beat a couple of weeks ago. So, look, I'm going to take the Storm. I'm going to take them by 12, or, could I even argue by 14? I'll go 14. I do think they'll win relatively well, but I think the Rays will give a somewhat of a good account of themselves. And, I think that it's quite unfair to have them such a massive handicap below them in regards to what people are thinking. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are in the chat, guys. Shoot me through a question about the Storm and Raiders game. Who do you think wins? And, let me know a question in regards to these two. August says Storm will win. Broccoli Weave says Storm 13 plus. James Formosa says, BK, just to correct, Para beat Melbourne as well, but Melbourne skyrocketed up and Para got worse. Absolutely. I forgot about that game. That was in torrential conditions, which obviously is still a loss, but it was in torrential conditions, obviously. So I didn't really look into that game as highly as other people did, and have a look where Parramatta are now and have a look where the Melbourne Storm are. So, that's the thing. That's why I say to you guys, look, that game was horrific conditions in the sense that it was raining, it was, thunder, it was wind, it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. But, look, I'll take the Storm there by about 14. I think, Adam Deadman says Storm 30 plus. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It would not necessarily surprise me whatsoever. The Storm could easily win this one by 50, with how the Rays have gone this season. But due to the fact that the Rays have been a bogey side of the Storm in the past, due to the fact that the Rays are actually playing for more than the Storm, because no matter what here, the Storm will stay in first position unless they lost by about 168 or whatever I said before. I will go with the Storm by 14. But I don't think there's any questions there, so I am going to... Daddy for Foos, can you do finals predictions? Maybe we'll see how we go, mate. We'll see how we go, but not in today's video. But that will wrap us up there for Storm and Raiders. I'm going Storm by 14. So beating the handicap, but they'll still win this game. Alrighty, let's move into the Dragons and the Panthers game. The Dragons at $6.50, Panthers at $1.12. Obviously, guys, shoot through your questions so that I have it ready for the next time when I jump and ask you guys your questions. The Dragons today sit in 11th place, Panthers sit in 2nd place. Previous result, Panthers beat them 32-28 in 2020, so they haven't played this year. They played last year. And that was a really outrageous game, but that was also when you still had that shock factor for the Panthers there. Like, no one really knew what was happening with the Panthers. They were really good, and it was really strange 2020 with the Panthers, obviously, because no one predicted them to be where they were. The Panthers are 2 points behind the Storm with 164 points differential between them. The Dragons can finish as high as 8th provided they win, with both the Titans and Raiders losing both significantly. It's not just they need to win, but the Titans and Raiders need to lose, but they need to lose significantly because they're for and against. And the Sharks win in a close match. They need the Sharks to only win in a close match. They can finish as low as 13th if a loss plus the Warriors and the Tigers win. So there is quite a bit of difference here with this Dragons team. Cleary is still out, but only due to being given time. Like, he realistically could play, but they don't really want to risk him. And because Burton is there and he's doing well right now, there's no point really risking him. There's no point, especially against the Dragons. Sorry, Dragons fans, but especially against the Dragons, the Panthers should come away with this win. They should come away with this win, and they should come away with this win well. I just don't really, look, the Panthers are paying $1.12 for a reason with a handicap of minus 18.5. Like, I think they're going to cover the handicap. I do. I know the Dragons are fighting for a spot in in the 8 as well. But I think that the Raiders team has that ability to take that next step up a level. I think the Raiders can actually, provide some kind of oomph about them, despite the fact they haven't had that oomph about them this year. The Dragons, on the other hand, they just don't have a great team. They've had so many things that have gone right for them at the beginning of the year, but this is what they always do. They start off the year well, and then they fall apart completely. And that's what's happened every single year. If you know the NRL, you know this is what happens with the Dragons. I've been saying this to you for literally all year long. Yes, I tipped the Dragons for last, and they're not going to come last. It's been a fantastic season in comparison to what most expected of them this year. But, we definitely can see that this team has dropped off dramatically. They got pumped by the Titans. They didn't get pumped by the Raiders, but they still got beaten pretty comprehensively. And overall, look, the Panthers are a really good team. I think they've got Crichton coming back as well. Burton is looking good. Obviously, Luai's there. And look, they don't need Cleary to win this game. And that tells you everything you need to know about the Panthers. I'm going to take the Panthers to win by 24. I truly do. I think the Panthers win this game really well. I think they win this really well, solidify themselves up there in that top 2 spot, because then the Rabbitohs can't jump above them, because this game does still mean a lot to the Panthers too, because otherwise they will drop into... the thing is, though, as well, you've got to remember this in regards to the finals, is that because all these teams right now are in Queensland, it doesn't really matter if you come first or second or third or fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh or eighth. No matter what, you're more than likely going to be playing your home game at Suncorp or Seabar Super Stadium. You know what I'm saying? So if the Titans come eighth, they can still technically get a home game. Obviously, Broncos and Cowboys can't make the 8, but Cowboys can still technically, but not really, because their form against is atrocious. But we'll get into them in a second. But yeah, I'm going to take the Panthers really well here. I think they're playing for a lot. And if they're playing for something, they're going to whoop them. They're going to whoop the Dragons. But now I'm going to go over the chat, guys. Shoot through your questions and let me know what your score prediction or what your prediction is for this game. James Formosa says, Cleary's first game back will be on the bench like Pappenhausen. I don't think he's on the bench. I think they've got him on the reserves because I don't think they need him to play. I think that in regards to Cleary, yes, they can play him. It's a luxury of them being able to play him. Obviously, when it's full team on full team, if this was a desperation game, they probably would rush Cleary back in, but they don't need to. They've got Burton there. Obviously, I've got my question marks on Burton because there has been parts of this season when he doesn't have those star players around them that they lose by 13 plus. Go back to that Tigers game, obviously, and that's why I worry for the Bulldogs, because they're just kind of chucking at how you go and team together there, and he's expected to be that leader, just like Kyle Flanagan was. We'll see how that one goes, but I do back in Burton to have a bit of a crack anyway. Zach Ladd says the Dragons would have a chance if they had the same team they had when they beat Parramatta early in the season. I disagree. I simply disagree. The reason why I disagree, however, with no disrespect, is that the Dragons, their team isn't that good. Their team coming together just simply isn't that good. And Dragons fans, yes, they want to believe that their team is up to standards, but there is a reason why everyone predicted you in 16th. There is a reason for this. It's not because anyone hates the Dragons. No, it's well, some people probably do. I don't. It's not because anyone hates the Dragons at all. It's simply because their team compared to other teams just doesn't look the goods compared to all these others. We've seen with Eels, if you want me to speak about the Eels, we've seen them completely fall off, and that tells you all about the Eels. Eels can lose those games to teams they shouldn't be losing to. But in the same sense, I did tell you guys that the Dragons always start the season off well and then fall apart later on in the year. And that's the problem with them. And they're now at the part of the end of the year, they're at the part of the year where they probably normally, on a normal year, wouldn't even be close to the 8 right now. The only reason they're there right now is simply because they set themselves up strongly, and then they've been terrible for the majority of the season. It was just that start that they were good. But if you have a look at everyone below that 6th position, 7th from Titans all the way down, everyone throughout the middle part of the season was pretty shocking. Pretty shocking. Normally you would see teams just take it away and, keep it distance from those teams around that 10th, 11th area. But this year it hasn't, because all those teams have just been not great this year. And I'm a Titans fan, I'll tell you the truth. So, yeah, look, I don't believe so. I think if the Dragons have the same team as they did against the Eels, I still think they get pumped here by 24 points. Any other questions here? Let me just quickly have a read through. James Formosa says Dragons have a slightly improved 4-pack next year, but just not good enough. Well, next year is obviously a different question. For me, yeah, look, I don't... look, that's a different question altogether. But all right, let's. Nico the Dragon says I do think the Dragons can win. Well, the Dragons they can win. There's no Cleary, they can, but I don't think so. I don't think that they do. I obviously know the Dragons fans are going to back their team in and believe in their team, but Overall, yeah, for me, it's just not going to happen, and I think the Panthers will win very, very well. But that will do us for the Dragons-Panthers game. Now, let's move into Friday night, the 8 o'clock game. Don't forget, guys, I will be streaming all of these games. Literally all these games this weekend I will be streaming, except for one game when the Bledisloe Cup is on, but I'll talk to you guys about that in a second. Now, the Broncos play the Roosters at Friday night at 8 o'clock, obviously at Suncorp Stadium. The Broncos paying $4.50, Roosters paying $1.20. That's to be expected. Now, the Broncos, they're in 15th position right now. The Roosters are in 5th. Their previous result was the Broncos 34-16, but I do want you to take into account let's be honest, the Roosters were referee out of that game. The Broncos did have a decent performance, and the Roosters did have a really poor performance, but you can also attribute a lot of that to the fact that the referees literally refereed the Roosters out of the game. But, that's all down to opinion, I guess. Broncos can officially avoid the spoon with a win, whilst jumping into 14th provided the Cowboys lose, because the Cowboys for and against is really, really bad, mind you. It's really, really bad. But the Broncos can actually jump the Cowboys in 14th if the Broncos were to win this and the Cowboys are to lose their game. And if they do win this game, then they're going to avoid the spoon, which is pretty big news for them, obviously, considering that they did receive it last year. The Roosters can finish in 4th this week with a win and Eels loss, can finish in 6th with a loss and Manly win. So nothing really changes a great deal, but at least if they jump into that top 4, we all know they get the double chance, provided they lose the first week against the Storm, who they would more than likely be playing. And then obviously if you didn't finish in the top 4, you'd be playing in a knockout game straight away. Brodie Croft is out for Albert Kelly at the Broncos. I think Brodie Croft's actually going to the Super League. And like I said, the Roosters paying $1.20 with a handicap of -14.5. Look, I get it. The Broncos fans, you saw that result earlier on against the Roosters, and you thought that I think that you thought that was going to be a turning point of the season. Obviously, that hasn't happened. This game is still relatively decent for them, and I don't give them 0% chance of winning this game. The Broncos are a team that are sneaky. They're a team that can provide a bit of a hump in the road. Obviously, we saw that back ages ago with the Titans. Obviously, the Titans won the first game. The second game, Titans went out to a 22-0 lead, and the Broncos came rampaging home in that first half still, and were able to win that. But I thought that was more against the Titans and their defense at the time compared to the Broncos and how quality they can be. But it also still shows that the Broncos are a team that can kind of... They're a weird team. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't even know how... look at the game against the Tigers, for example. That was a game where they had won and then lost it. Or they have the ability in the Dogs game where they were shocking for the first half. I think it was 0-0 or 2-0 or whatever. And then they bursted out into the open in the second half. This was a long time ago for the 24-0. Worst game I've ever witnessed in rugby league. That is literally officially the worst game of rugby league I've ever witnessed. Broncos versus Bulldogs. Oh my God, right? But that's a long time ago now. The Broncos can, I think they're a bit of a bogey side for the Panthers, but obviously Panthers still get the job done. I really don't give them 0% chance here, but I would give them probably about, I'd give them about 5%, 10%. I really think the Roosters are going to win this one because they're playing. This is much more important for them as the Roosters than it is to the Broncos. If they were to win, they can go into the top 4 because Manly and the Eels play each other this week. So no matter what, one of those teams is going to win. Otherwise, a draw, but I doubt it. We're probably assuming that Manly is going to win that game. So that would then mean the Roosters, no matter what, with Manly winning, they will jump into 4th position, and then we'll get into Parramatta's dropping in a second, and but they would need, obviously, Manly to win that game. But if Manly are to win that game, they would then obviously need to hope they win this game, because if they lose this game and then Manly win, then Manly actually will jump above the Roosters. So yeah, that 3-pack right there is quite interesting, because it's interesting how this different sections of this NRL right now. You do have those top 3 teams in the Rabbitohs, Storm, and the Panthers. Then you have the Eels, Manly, and the Roosters. And then you have the Titans, the Sharks, the Dragons, the Knights, and the Raiders. So that's kind of how it is. And then you obviously get all down to the dribblers down the end. So, look, for me, I'm going to take the Roosters here. I'm actually going to take them by 8 points. I don't think it's going to be an absolute blowout. I don't. I think the Roosters win this one. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because I think the Broncos might give it a bit of a crack, but overall, I do have the Roosters to take this one. But let's go into the chat right now. Let's go into the chat and let me know. Ola Lamanu says, I'm a Broncos fan, but I tip the Roosters. Broncos can play good, but if they're down by 8, they always give up on themselves. I wouldn't necessarily say they always give up on themselves. I just think that they don't really know where they're at right now. They're kind of looking towards next year as if next year is going to be the solving of their problems. But then again, like, with no offense to Parramatta fans, like, this is what Parramatta fans have been saying year in, year out. It's always next year, or, this year is our year at the beginning of the year, and then it slowly draws away from itself. The Broncos need to focus on sorting themselves out this year, and then next year being next year, and then they can sort themselves out with that as well. Like, they need to progress. Like, the Titans and the way they've come up to 7th position right now didn't happen like that. They got the wooden spoon in 2019, and then struggle for the first half of 2020, and then finish in 9th. This year now, they're looking likely for a top 8 spot, but there's no guarantees of it just yet. And then obviously they're drawing, each season as it comes, and obviously has that plan. The Broncos, for me, yeah, look, they've got Reynolds, whatnot. Like, they've still got a bit of a how you going spine. Turpin as the 9 is not really fantastic for me. I don't think he's really that next level kind of guy. Reynolds obviously comes in. They don't really know what they want to do with their 5'8" next year, whether they want to put Katoa Staggs there or Tyson Gamble. I think Gamble can't get the job done, but you could have that electricity of Staggs, even though I think Staggs should be there. And then obviously you got your fullback in Tessie New, who is young, but I still don't think is going to be as good as everyone else kind of in the NRL right now, but that's because the NRL has such a plethora of fantastic fullbacks as we currently speak. So, look, I think the Broncos need to focus on starting their improvement now rather than thinking about next year. And that's the main thing for me in regards to the Brisbane Broncos. You guys know me. I'm a Titans fan I'm not the biggest fan of the Brisbane Broncos, but I don't hate them. I want to see, look, it's great for the NRL when they're successful. It is great for the NRL when the Broncos are successful, but obviously that isn't now, and they should stop focusing on next year, start focusing on this year first. Ethan says, I still think 1 of 12 Roosters haven't been great lately, especially against the Dogs and Cowboys. Those 2 games were quite poor from the Roosters. It seems obvious on who to pick, but you can't trust it. Yeah, that's the exact same. That's the exact same with the Raiders Storm game for me as well. You could argue Panthers Dragon, but I don't think so. But yeah, with the Roosters Broncos, I'm taking them by 8 points. I think that, the Roosters aren't fantastic, but they've still got enough to put this Broncos side away, which will keep the sniff alive for the Dogs, but realistically, that spin battle's pretty much over there. It's pretty much over there. James Formosa says, Adam Reynolds is a player that he needs a good team around him to be as good. Based on what, man? Based on what? The Rabbitohs have always had a good team, so why do you think that he wouldn't be able to do that, considering that we haven't really seen him at a team that hasn't been able to give him that talent? So how do you know that he couldn't then improve the talent? But that's going to do us for the Broncos-Roosters game. Roosters by 8 points in that one. Now, guys, don't forget, obviously, smack that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and subscribe if you're new around here. And if you do like these kind of live streams in regards to tips, I will start doing them more so, obviously, every Tuesday. This was meant to go out yesterday, by the way, guys. I've had a lot of computer issues, obviously. But let's move on to the Rabbitohs-Titans game. Now, you guys obviously know I am a Titans fan. So do take this into account. You always need to take this into account when you're listening to a person tipping or streaming, or just anyone in general who is a supporter or played for said team. When it comes to Andrew Johns, I'm not listening to him when it comes to the Knights. When it comes to Wally Lewis, I'm not listening to him when it comes to the Broncos. I'll take what they say into account, but I'm not going to listen to them straight up as if like that's going to happen. Because for me, I'm not going to tip against the Titans here. Like I'm going to give you a positive spin on the Titans because I genuinely believe the Titans have a chance here. Do they win? Probably not. It's $1.15 for the Rabbitohs and $5.50 for the Titans. However, I'm going to give you a positive spin because that's how I believe. This is my perspective. But you do always need to take this into account with anyone that you witness, with anyone that you watch, okay? But we move into this Titans versus Rabbitohs game. The Rabbitohs are in 3rd position. The Titans are in 7th. The previous result was the Rabbitohs winning 40-30. Now, the Titans were up in that game, I think it was 24-10 at half-time, but the Rabbitohs came home strongly in the end. So it gives you a shout that the Titans haven't been that bad against the Rabbitohs, and they've always got a pretty mixed result against them. But yeah, obviously that was at a time when their defense was shocking, and their defense has absolutely improved the Titans. But the Rabbitohs still scored 40 because, for me, they're either the best or the second best attacking team in the competition. Yes, I have them probably on par with the Storm, but then again, the Panthers, when they're hot, can be that too. But I've still got the Rabbitohs minimum top 3. Anyway, minimum top 3. And their defense has absolutely improved the Rabbitohs. So both teams' defense has improved. I think the Rabbitohs' attack has actually improved more so than the Titans, however. The Rabbits can jump into second with a win plus a Panthers loss. They can't drop anywhere. I think they're 6 points or even 8 points above the next. I think it's 6 points above whoever's next, which is the Eels, who are in 4th position right now. The Titans can't go any higher. They can only finish in 7th this weekend with a win. However, they can drop as low as 10th with a loss, plus Raiders win, Sharks or Knights win. They would need a significant points differential changing there, however. And the Dragons win with a massive scoreline. Like, it would have to be a massive, significant win there for the Dragons, whilst the Titans lose pretty well for the Dragons to jump above them, which is probably unrealistic. However, It is still technically possible. Both teams are pretty much at full strength, with Sexton holding out Fogarty. I've obviously loved a bit of Sexy Sexton in my life. Sexy Sexton has been unbelievable for the Titans, and yes, obviously missed a couple of kicks the other day, but I think that Sexton and Taylor have been doing really well in the halves there, and obviously we have really improved greatly since Sexton has been coming back, and I didn't think that Fogs had a great season when he was there, but look, obviously I love the Fogs. I love what he does with the club, and I love how he's been through with the club, but I do think that Sexton is the right answer right now. Rabbits are paying $1.15, sorry, with a handicap of -17.5. I think that handicap is absolutely ludicrous. Like, I try to think that handicap is absolutely ludicrous. On a realistic level, I do have the Rabbitohs win this game 1-12, but I think -17.5 is absolutely outrageous. The last time these two teams played was a 10-point win to the Rabbitohs. However, the Titans were leading in half-time. The Titans, obviously, yes, recently haven't exactly been playing the greatest of opponents. However, they did beat the Dragons really well. They beat the Raiders really well as well. All those teams around that 8 area. They haven't beaten that top 8 team yet besides the Raiders. However, they have also given themselves a good shot against some of these top 8 teams. Obviously, the Roosters, they were down 30-4 with about 20 minutes to go and only lost that game 35-34 and actually led 34-30 with about 3 minutes to go there before the Roosters hit back a couple of times. Obviously, like I said, the game here against the Rabbitohs, it was 24-10 at half time to the Titans, and then they fell apart in the end. Just like in Manly, I think they were up 24-8 at half time against Manly a few weeks ago before Manly obviously hit that 50 points in that second half, which was absolutely outrageous. The Storm game was obviously 18 or 16-10 or 18-12 or something like that. Either way, very close game there. The Titans actually had a chance late on there to actually tie that game and send it to extra time. That was an origin period, but you've also got to take into account the Storm. They have the big players, right? They've got the star players out, so do the Titans. And because you're a smaller club, usually those players going out impacts your club a lot more than, say, the Storm, who, even their reserves, their second graders, are still as good as first graders. The whole Storm system is just unbelievable. So the outs of David Feeder and Fast Malawi and Fodawaker and the likes and Brimson, these were all significant outs for the Titans, whilst the Storm can still cover. So it was a very close game there, considering the Titans realistically should have been beaten quite well there anyway. Now, the Titans have improved their defense recently. The Rabbitohs are so underrated in regards to their defense right now. They are not giving anywhere near as much as what they were beforehand. But the thing with the Rabbitohs is that they're a team that are going to outscore you. They're a team that's going to challenge you to outscore them. They're going to score 40 points. They're going to score 50 points. I think up until they scored 250 points in a row before this week that they've just gone past when they scored 40 points. The Rabbitohs are more than likely going to be hitting 30 in this game, 30-40. Despite the fact the Titans' defense has improved, the Rabbitohs are more than likely going to be hitting 30 in this game, minimum. Yeah? So the Titans are now challenged to go and score that much against them. And with the Rabbitohs defense being better, I really think that it's not going to be like that. I'm going to go 36-24 here to the Rabbitohs. I'm going to say that the Rabbitohs win 36-24. I would obviously love my Titans to surprise me. I would love, and there's no doubt in my mind that Titans can surprise them. But I just think that my 17.5 is disrespectful considering how well they've been and the fact that they are fighting for that top 8 spot. The thing is, the benefits of Titans here is that even with a loss, the Raiders still have a very difficult team they have to play. The Knights and Sharks obviously have to play each other. They would probably prefer the Sharks to win that one if the Titans were to lose. And then obviously, I don't really care about Warriors Bulldogs because the Warriors aren't going to be doing it. But the good thing is that the Dragons play the Panthers and the Raiders play the Storm. So it's difficult for the teams that are looking to jump them to actually, in fact, jump them. So I'm going to take the Rabbitohs to win 36-24. But obviously, like I said, guys, I would love the Titans to surprise me here, and I do back my team in for a surprise. But let me know in the chat, guys, what you are thinking about this game, and shoot me through a question if you would like. Jake Willard says, I think Titans can give good periods, but Rabbitohs can just cruise until it's close and then score whenever they like. I think that you're right. I think you're right, but I think if there's anyone outside of that top 6 right now that could provide a spark to beating the Rabbitohs, I think that the only team right now would be the Titans. Sorry, I can't see the Raiders doing it against the Rabbitohs. I definitely can't see the Sharks. Maybe the Knights, but probably not. Dragons, definitely, absolutely not. They got pumped by them the other week as well. I think that if anyone's going to surprise, it would be the Titans. But I still can't pull myself to. I actually personally have the Rabbitohs as looking the best as we currently speak. I know everyone's talking about the Storm, and fair enough, absolutely, they're number 1. But I think the Rabbitohs are so underrated right now, and considering their 3rd position right now, and I've been saying this for about 8 weeks. I've been saying this since they lost by 50 points to the Storm and the Panthers. I think this team is probably going to make the grand final. and that would obviously mean that Panthers or Storm won't be there. And I think that whoever plays the Rabbitohs in the lead up to that grand final could obviously be the one to go out. That's a hot take, obviously, but that's what I'm thinking anyway. Alfie says, do you know about the Titans can make to the final? To the grand final? No, unfortunately not. And that's not what we're looking for right now as a Titans fan, man. We're not looking for the Titans to make the grand final right now. If they did it, it's a massive surprise. It's a massive shock, and I love it. Absolutely love it, man. But overall, man, that's not what I'm looking for. What I said before was what we kind of look for. 2019, obviously, we got the wooden spoon. Shocking, yeah? 2020, coaching change. Halfway through, we're last, and then we still finish in 9th position. So we improve. This year, we always aim to get around that 7th, 8th position to knock ourselves into that 8th, probably get knocked out first round. However, still have that sneaky little ability against like an Eels or against like a Roosters or maybe Manly. We usually have a good record against Manly, but, I'm not expecting to get out of the first week. I'm not expecting, and I don't really care if we get out of the first week or not. I just want to make the finals so that it's still that improvement, right? Next year, you want to be pushing into that top 6. You want to be really improving yourself to that point, or at least getting to the finals and then being able to progress past the first week and even the second week potentially. And then obviously 2023 is when, you want to be winning the grand final. So the Titans, for me, it's just all about progression. They're not going to be making the grand final this year. If they do, wow, fantastic. But I just don't personally believe it in myself. Jet Taylor says, Blaze, if we put our money in the right places, can Manly become premiership contenders? Well, they're contenders. They're contenders, but I have teams that are absolutely above them. James almost says, all the teams fighting for the 8 goal is to solidify themselves in the 8 every year. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure what that's referencing. Joel Ross says, I think the Titans are underrated and may cause an upset. Look, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that if anyone's going to upset the Rabbitohs here, the Titans definitely could be the ones to do it. Do I think it happens? No, I don't. I actually give us more of a chance of upsetting the Storm next week than the Rabbitohs. Now, the thing is, as well, as you got to remember that the Titans have a pretty difficult run home alongside this. So the Titans have the Rabbitohs this week, they have the Storm the week after. The Knights the week after that, who I think the Titans should do away with pretty well. They have a pretty good record against the Knights. Smacked them this year and smacked them last year too, just before we finish off the year. And then play the Warriors. And the Warriors, you're probably like, oh, why the Warriors? They're not great. It's because they're our bogey team. We always lose them. We've beaten them like once in 11 years or something like that. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, look, I think that I think the Titans give a good account for themselves here. I think my 17.5 is absolutely ludicrous. I think $5.50 to win is absolutely ludicrous, but it is what it is, and hopefully they can provide a shock. But let's move into the next game here, guys, which is the Cowboys and the West Tigers. Now, the Cowboys paying $2.35, the Tigers are $1.60. Now, the Cowboys are 14th position, and the West Tigers are 13th. So this is a battle of the dribblers right now. I'm sorry, Cowboys and Tigers fans, but I think you could even admit the battle of the dribblers right now. The previous result was the Cowboys winning 34-30, so a very high-scoring game there. We move into Cowboys are able to finish as high as 13th with a win. Now, they're 14th, so they can only jump above the Tigers here with a win by 59. They would need to win by nearly 60 points for this to happen, because their for and against is just woeful. But they can drop to 15th with a loss and Broncos win because, like I said, even though the Broncos for and against is legit like minus 250, the Cowboys for and against is like minus 240 or something like that. It's stupid. Tigers can finish as high as 10th with a win, and the Sharks a big loss, a Dragons a big loss, and a Warriors loss. So they need a couple of big losses there for them to be any chance of jumping into 10th, which will, I guess, kind of sneak them around that area, but still. You're not making the 8, guys. Tamalolo, Talangi, and Burr is out for the Cowboys, so that's a big couple of losses there. Obviously, Murray Talangi has been fantastic this year for the Cowboys, and Tamalolo, we all know what Tamalolo can do, despite the fact that he probably gets misused there at the Cowboys. Tigers paying $1.60 with a handicap of -4. This is just such a bleh game. This is such a bleh game. Titans, they killed off the Cowboys last week, and it was pretty easy to predict that beforehand. The Cowboys just don't have it right now. And I would be massively shocked for them to finish below the Broncos, because I never would have thought the Cowboys would have been that bad this year that they're going to finish in 15th below the Broncos, who, like I said, have a minus 250 points differential. But then again, obviously, it depends on how much they lose to the Roosters by, with the Cowboys going below them with a loss. But overall, man, the Cowboys have been really disappointing this year. There's just no sense of attack. There's just no sense of real energy. I'm not getting positive vibes from this club whatsoever. I don't know whether it's, them just not gelling, or the fact that they've got no real elusive flair about them. They've got no real kind of attacking creativity about them since Thurston left. I'm going to pull it out there. Since Thurston left, this team has been massively downhill. It's just continuously gone downhill, and then you reach the bottom, and then you don't think there can be a further bottom, and yet they find that further bottom and continue to go downhill. This team doesn't have that energy to take it to the next level, and the Tigers kind of do. Like, they're not a good team at all. The Tigers, they are in 13th position for a reason. But at least with their team, they do have a couple of players here and there that can kind of provide a tiny bit of a spark. Like, I don't understand why Cowboys are persisting with Valentine Holmes as fullback. I get maybe money-wise, financially, but Valentine Holmes for me isn't a great fullback at all. I've never rated him as a fullback. I don't think he's a good fullback. I think he's one of the best wingers in the game. We saw what he did in Sharks in 2016. We see what Valentine Holmes is able to do on the wing for Queensland, and obviously, yeah, he wasn't great when he was a fullback for Queensland too, to be completely honest with you. I just don't rate Holmes as a fullback. I don't get it. Obviously there's no Dane Laurie for the Tigers, but I still feel like there's more about them that can win this game. But this game is so shocking. Like, I don't really care who wins this game, and I don't really think anyone really does. I think even Cowboys and Tigers fans are at that point where they're just like, we just want this season to be over at this point. And the Tigers fans are like that every single year. And this is, considering the Tigers, this is even more of a disappointment year for them, because obviously the hype of Harry Grant last year, people forgot that he was leaving. Now they don't really have that. Anyway, the Tigers, they're going to be finishing around this place. I actually had them in 15th, so at least they're 13th position right now. They're 2 spots above them, but they're not going to be jumping too much higher than this. So I'm going to go with the Tigers to win this game. I'm going to go with the Tigers to win by, gee whiz. I think it's... I'm going to go 10 points. I'm going to go 10. I could even go 13 plus. I'll go Tigers 10 points. I'll give the Cowboys some credit because they are at home, to be fair. I don't know how to read these two teams. I don't really want to read these two teams. Cowboys, not great. Tigers, not great. But they are still technically in the hunt for the 8. Cowboys, if you think you're making the 8, you're dreaming. And the Tigers, your fought against isn't... your fought against isn't absolutely horrific, but you're not making the 8. But yeah, I'll take Tigers by 10. So let's go and have a look in the chat, guys, what your thoughts are about this game. Shoot me through some questions about what you're thinking. Luke Parmenter says, Valentine Holmes was a great fullback in 2018. Maybe got to admit that. 2018. Jeez, we've gone back 3 years ago to give him credit. Like, really? You want to defend him by going back 3 years ago? And also, 2018, was he a good fullback? Was he? I can't even remember. I can't even remember him being a quality fullback back then. If he was, so be it. But I never really saw that. And if I did, then yeah, I've forgotten completely about it. So unfortunately, I won't be able to agree because I don't really know. Luke Palmer says carried the Sharks to the top 4 that year. Did he? I thought 2018 was the year that he went to the NFL. I thought he was. He got 22 tries in 2018. Well, then fair enough. Then that's great. Well, okay. Now compare him to now. Compare him to 2020. Compare him to 2021. And tell me that you think that he should be fullback. Tell me if you honestly believe he should be fullback, then fair enough, man. But I don't. And I don't think he's been good for Queensland. And when he went to fullback, I thought he was pretty good when he came into the wing for Game 3 before I think he got injured. And yeah, I think his wing ability, much superior to him at fullback. But obviously he wants that fullback money because the NFL thing didn't really work out for him financially. James Shipper says, hi, Blaze. Hello, mate. Josh Sam says, 2019 he went to the NFL. 2019, there we go. Luke Palmer says, fallen down since his return. Absolutely, there you go. But I still think that he was good for when he plays at the wing. I still think he's great. So maybe you shift him there and put Granville as the one. Isn't that who's been kind of playing there recently? I think that could actually work out possibly better. So yeah, there we go. James Moss says the NFL disappointment has got to his head. I predicted that when Hayne came back. I don't even know if it's necessary. Well, Haynes was a bit of a different story. Hayne was a little bit of a different story to Valentine Holmes. We're not going to get into that one. But Dum Dum says Tigers will win something like 22-10. Zach Smith says, as a Tigers fan, I can't see us winning this game. Why? Why can't you see you winning this game is my question. But I'll leave that to you guys in the chat to discuss because I'm going to move on to the next game. But I don't really understand why you can't see yourself winning this game when the Tigers, I'm going to quickly have a look here. Who did they play last week? Who did they play like? I just don't remember. 2016 over the Dogs. They both looked equally as bad there. And the Tigers lost the Warriors 18-16. To be fair, I get it. But the Cowboys are just as bad, man. So don't be too hard on your team there because the Cowboys are just as bad. So I'm going to go with Tigers. I'm going to go by 10 points. Either option can happen. I just don't really care. But let's move on to the Manly versus Eels game. By the way, guys, I will not be streaming that Cowboys-Tigers game because, luckily enough, the Bledisloe Cup game was on at that time between Australia and New Zealand, so I will be streaming the Bledisloe Cup absolutely over that game. So it works out very well. But 7:30 on Saturday, Manly play the Eels on the Sunshine Coast. Now, Manly paying $1.20, Eels paying $4.50. Manly currently sitting 6th, Eels currently sitting 4th, but previous result was Manly 28-6. That was a big game. That was the day in remembrance of Bobby Fulton. Manly can finish as high as 4th with a win by 2 over the Eels. Roosters lost. They do still need to win by 2. They can't win by a field goal and jump over Parramatta. They do need to win by 2. And obviously the Roosters to lose against the Broncos, which is relatively unrealistic, but still possible. Eels can't go any higher, can drop to 6th with a loss by 2+, and the Roosters win. So a couple of things can really change in this little area. Joey Lussick will come into the number 9 for Reid Marnie in Parramatta, which is the big one there. Obviously there is a couple of outs for Manly Paseka, and there's a couple of outs here and there, but that's the big one. Realistically, Manly paying $1.20 here, heading up -14.5, and I think Manly win. I do. I think Manly win. I think the Eels will give a much better account for themselves than the odds are suggesting at $4.50. I think I'll go Manly 1-12 here. I'm going to go Manly by 6. These two teams hate each other. And rivalry games, they really do confuse me. I could easily see with the way that Manly have been playing this year, Manly winning by legitimately 60. No one wanted to listen to me when I said to you guys that Parramatta, for me, I actually thought they looked better last year than they did this year. And everyone was just like, no, well, not even everyone. Everyone's kind of in agreement besides Parramatta fans, but that's always kind of what happens. Parramatta fans are so desperate for you to believe their team is going to be good because they have had such an arguably, factually long drought. 35 years without a premiership, so they want you to believe in them so that they can believe in themselves. I get Parramatta fans. I get why they want to be like that because I'd want to be like that. But yeah, for me, Parramatta really are struggling. The fact that they overrate their players as well as what I feel like is giving them such a I don't even know what to an entitled sense of achievement. I don't know what to say, but obviously by calling Gutherson King Gutho, I think that's probably making their disappointment so much as well because look, Gutherson's a good fullback. Like he gets the job done absolutely. He's not really a fast fullback. He's not really an agile fullback, but he'll get the gritty stuff out of the way and he'll do what is necessary. But overall, I have no idea who started off this King Gutho ridiculousness, to be honest with you. But then you compare him to Trebojevic and you're like, okay, Trebojevic or King Gutho, like really? So I think that's the problem with Parramatta fans, that they've given themselves such a big sense of entitlement based on wanting to make other people believe that they're going to be good. When we sit back and we're like, we don't actually think you're that great. You're good enough to be above all these other 7 teams, or 7th below from Titans all the way down. But you still did lose the Dragons. You still, without that sin bin that I disagree with against the Titans, you scored 3 tries with that sin bin. Besides that, I'm pretty certain that you tied with the Titans based on points through 70 minutes there. And then we obviously know that David Feeder scored that try at the end, which was ridiculous. But, either way, the Eels are still better than everyone below 7th position. However, I just feel like they have too much belief in this team that is setting themselves up for massive disappointment. And we've obviously seen them realistically fall massively behind in recent weeks. Even so much that people are now saying they're finishing in 6th position. At some point of the season, people are thinking they're going to be top 2, maybe minor premiership. And now they're down in 6th position. And, I think it's starting to really dawn on Parramatta that they're not going to do well this year. They're not going to get what they need to be done. And anything besides a premiership, realistically, is disappointing for Parramatta. Considering what they went into previously in the beginning of this year, considering progression from when they were wooden spoons a few years ago and to now, it's been fantastic. But this was a year, people keep saying premiership window open. I don't think so. I don't think this playing group is good enough. I don't. If you disagree with me, then so be it. Look, I'm not going to be the one disappointed when Parramatta probably don't win the premiership this year and probably don't win it next year because they're going to have to adjust to a lot of things. Is Arthur the right coach? I don't know, man. I don't know. Manly should win this game. But the only reason I'm making it a close game is because I feel like Eels are desperate to bounce back, and because it's such a rivalry game, I think there's going to be a lot of heated this is going to be a heated battle. But if Manly win by 50, don't say that I wasn't surprised. Don't say I wasn't surprised. But let's move into the chat over here. Let me know your predictions. And obviously, Jason Moses, Big X, better Fetty Bomb. Could see a Fetty Bomb, but I don't think so. Obviously, Manly have definitely impressed. I think their attack was shocking last week in the first half against the Storm, but I think their defense was fantastic. I think their defense against the Storm was unbelievable. Like, it was dead set top 2 defense, impossibly the best defense that I've seen nearly all year long, to be able to prevent the Storm with how much they attacked and how much possession they had, to keep them actually to an 8-8 game at half time. And it was ridiculous. That's something that I've really got to commend Manly with. Their defense against Storm in the first half was ridiculously good. But yeah, look, I'm taking Manly here, but I'm going to take it close. Jason Moses says, just saying, but Brad Arthur has mistreated Micah Sivo. He's got potential to be as good as Jason Saab. This coming from a Para fan. Just use him as a machine. I obviously love Micah Sivo. Dosa Viti. You know, my family's Fijian. We all know that. We all know that I love Fiji. Micah Sivo has unfortunately regressed in the most recent years. Even to an extent where people are starting to say, is it Ravalawa is up there? I disagree. I think Micah Sivo is clearing out way better, in my personal opinion. And I think Micah Sivo has the potential to be the number 1 winger in the competition. But unfortunately, this is another problem that people don't really give too much credit for. For you to be a good winger or for you to be a good centre, you desperately need quality halves and a quality hooker to get you the ball. And then you also have to rely on the centre inside you to also get you the ball. Because if you don't have a quality centre who will pass the ball, i.e. Will Chambers, Bushk, that guy is an idiot and doesn't ever pass the ball. Has his prime time well and truly behind him, right? Well and truly. Right, so if you don't have a good centre, you're not going to get the ball on the wing. Right? If you don't have a good hooker, he's going to go the other way. If you don't have quality halves to put the ball in, a good kicker in, say, the number 7, or a nice floater in the 6 to go out your way, you're not going to be good. And unfortunately, I don't think this playing group is quality enough for Micah Sivo to really shine. But Micah Sivo can also have his off days by himself, off games. It's a mixture of both there. But yeah, look, I would agree to an extent. I think Micah Sivo has been underutilised at Parramatta, but I think that's more to do with the fact that their team overall is a little bit of a disappointment at the moment. Joel Ross says, Turbo will unleash the goods after having a quiet game in attack last week. Schuster will be spinning the no-look passes. Schuster's been really good this year. I've really enjoyed watching Schuster. There's actually been a nice little young core coming through across the league this year, and Schuster definitely is there. Do I think he gets Rookie of the Year? Probably not, but I think that he's been fantastic, and I think that he was a big reason as to why the Raiders beat Manly a couple of weeks ago. I know Trebojevic wasn't there, I know Cherry Evans wasn't there, but I think Schuster is also that extra bit of flair, that big-bodied flair. That is really good for Manly, and he's just continuously proving himself to be such quality wherever he plays, right? So, yeah, look, I think Manly going into this game, I could easily see them win. It's a difficult game for me to predict. I don't see Eels winning this game. I'm giving them credit because they still are in that top area. I'm giving them enough credit to say that they'll compete, but I still think that Manly will be able to win, whether it be by 6 or whether by 50. Alex, the sports guy, says, I feel like Jason Saab has the potential to be amazing, but he struggles without Turbo because the only time he gets the ball is when DCE kicks to him on 5th. Jason Saab, obviously we saw that he wasn't exactly like what he is now. Obviously at the Dragons he was at beforehand. It really does come down. This is another thing. You put Micah, that's down to pace though with Saab compared to Sivo, but you put Micah Sivo in that Manly. Let's hypothetically say that Micah Sivo is at Manly and Jason Saab is at, let's go with the Dogs. Jason Saab would more than likely be another Nick Cottridge, where he's just not getting the ball. He's just not being able to get the opportunity to show how good he is, right? You put Micah Sivo there, and Micah Sivo will flourish at Manly. That big-bodied winger who is going to get some real nice opportunities with Cherry Evans kicking the ball, with Trebojevic taking off some heat. I just don't think Sivo has that ability to erupt as good as he like I said, Eels were better last year for me. So, yeah, that's my biggest issue there in regards to the Eels. They just don't have the connections, and I think they've set themselves up with some really serious, unrealistic expectations. Jake Welland says, Eels have to have a ripper of a game to beat the top sides. I think they might be able to do that today, but Manly maybe 16-12. That's what I'm saying. I've got Manly by 6. I'll go 24-18. No, you know what? You know what? I want to go 24-14. I'll go 10 points to Manly. I'll go 24-14 here for Manly. I think they're good, the Eels, but I don't think they're good enough here. I don't think they're good enough. But let's move on to the next game. This goes into arguably another bit of a dribbler game here on Sunday, which is the New Zealand Warriors and the Canterbury Bulldogs game getting underway here. Warriors are in 12th position. The Bulldogs are in 16th position. Obviously, we know Tuivasa-Sheck has gone back to New Zealand, and this has been for a couple of weeks now. But just to reiterate, $1.35 here for the Warriors, $3.25 for the Bulldogs. Now, in this game, the Dogs are 12th, Bulldogs 16th. Previous result was 20-14 to the Warriors, but that was in 2020. It was last year. The Warriors can finish as high as 10th. So they're currently in 12th. They can finish as high as 10th with a win plus Dragons loss and a Sharks big loss to the Knights, obviously. Can drop as low as 13th with a loss, but Tigers win. So they don't really drop a great deal because they are quite down towards the bottom of the table, but that will put them in the bottom 4, mind you. Bulldogs will remain last regardless. Sorry, Dogs fans, but you will remain last regardless of this result. But need a win plus the Broncos to keep the plus the Broncos to lose to keep the spoon race alive. If you lose and the Broncos win, it's all done. You're gone. You're wooden spooner, and you're going to get another poster. Where is it? That's right. You're going to be getting one of these bad boys. You'll be getting one of these bad boys. The Warriors are paying $1.35, handicap minus 8.5. Now, you've got to remember also here for the Dogs, they do get Corey Horsburgh and Ryan James on loan from the Raiders. We're kind of starting to see the NRL go down a bit of a European football, a bit of a European football destination here with loans, because this isn't the only loans, and these loans are necessary, but we also did see other loans over time that have been a little bit more luxury rather than necessity, but these ones specifically aren't necessity due to the fact that Bulldogs have a lot of injuries and a lot of players out and whatnot, but the Raiders do give Ryan James and Horsburgh. Ryan James is starting with Horsburgh, I think, is on the bench. The Dogs are not good. The Dogs aren't good. This is usually the part of the season where they do well, and they continuously still aren't doing well. This is the part of the season when they do well. We say this every week, and they still lost the Tigers, 28-16. That's Canterbury. Yeah, that's Canterbury. It's like there's nothing here. I'm going back over a couple of results here. 34-6 to the Titans. They got walloped. They got walloped. They played the Sharks. They lost by 20 points. They lost 44-24, scored 24 points. They still gave up nearly a 50 bomb. They gave up a 50 bomb there. To the Sharks. And the Sharks aren't fantastic at the moment. And we go back before that. They lost to the Rabbitohs, 32-24. I'm going back to their last win. When was their last win? Against the Dragons, maybe, I think. They lost 22-16 to the Roosters. Cool, Roosters, whatever. They're still lost. Bulldogs lost 66-0 to Manly. 66-0. Outrageous. 36-10 of the Eels. I'm still going back to find their last win. I think their last win was that Dragons game. It was 28-6 against the Dragons. I was right. 28-6 on the 14th of June. What's today? Today is the 11th of August. They've gone 2 months without a win. They will have gone 2 months without a win here. So, look, I can't get behind the Dogs here. And, look, do I think the Warriors are in with the hunt to make the 8? No, absolutely not. I think the Warriors have checked out completely, but they're coming up against a team that is a dribbler. They are coming last for a reason, and they are going to come last this year. And unfortunately, they're going to be getting their own bloody poster to hang up on their wall. They're going to probably get beaten well here by the Warriors because the Warriors probably still give themselves a chance to make the 8. Their for and against isn't absolutely diabolical. And the Warriors, although they're 12, they still have that opportunity to be, I think, within 2 points of the 8, provided they win, and a couple of Raiders and Titans and 2 of the Raiders, Titans, and Knights lose to be able to still be within 2 points of that top 8. Because those 3 teams are on 20, everyone else on 18. So yeah, I think that the Warriors will win this one. I'm going to go Warriors by 18. I'm going to go Warriors by 18. I think they'll have enough to put away the Dogs here and really, put that stamping foot into the Dogs' horrific season. And I think that this will solidify Trent Barrett as the worst coach in the history of ever. And I've been saying this forever. He is the worst coach ever, and will continue it next year. And hopefully for the Dogs fans' sake that he doesn't disappoint next year, but he will. Oh, he will. Oh, he will. All right, let's go have a look. Alex the Sports Guy says, with forwards coming back for the Warriors, they've gotten better in form, so I think Warriors 13 plus. Yeah, I've gone Warriors by 18. The Warriors still aren't good, but it's because, and the Warriors have massive excuses this year. They have massive excuses this year. And their excuses come from the fact that they're not at home. And this is why I said at the beginning of the year, the Warriors bottom 4. I'm not far off right now. People called me crazy. People said there's no way the Warriors come bottom 4. And I said, I think I put them in 14th. I didn't put them into bottom two. The bottom two was Dragons, Tigers, and then I had the Warriors. And it's still not out of the question here. I think they can't finish bottom three realistically because the Broncos and Cowboys fought against is just a woeful. But the Warriors are definitely, acting overall like a bottom 14 this year, but that's because they haven't been with their families. They haven't got a single home game. None of their games are in New Zealand. So, how can you expect this team to do well when they're getting every single game as an away game? I don't care if they call Central Coast their home. It's not a home game. I don't care where they call it home. It's not a home game unless they're at Mount Smart in New Zealand. So, I still think the Warriors win this. Look, I wouldn't be surprised by 10. I'll go 18, though. I think the Warriors are good enough here with a bit more energy in their team. I think they've got a bit more energy in their team than what this Dogs team does have. Ted Les McDuffie says, Dogs legit have nothing to lose. They're obviously wooden spoons, so that's why they're going to lose again. I was expecting a different ending to that comment, to be honest with you. Jordan Hannaford says, how many premiership have the Titans won? How many have Bulldogs won? I'm not too sure the point here, to be completely honest with you, man. Titans haven't won any, and the Dogs haven't won any when the Titans have been in the competition. So, not too sure why you're upset here, to be completely honest with you. It's just a fact here that Dogs just aren't great. They're in 16th position for a reason. They've made 2 grand finals in the last 10 years, and you're the one in last. My team came in last 2 years ago. I don't really care. I know my team. I think it's time to start realising for yourself. Your team's unfortunately not a grand final team anymore. Your team is long far gone from when they won the premiership, and I think it's time to start being a little bit more realistic in regards to your support. Because look, if you get upset about someone calling your team a bit of a dribbler, my team was a dribbler 2 years ago. I can admit that to you. You're the one upset, not me, big guy. Medvedev says, if Warriors were to win the minor premiership and to be the home team in a grand final, will it be played in New Zealand or will it be tradition and still be played at ANZ? I don't. What? If the Warriors would win the minor premiership and to be the home team in a grand final, they won't get a grand final. What are you talking about? Grand final's always in Sydney. The grand final's always in Sydney. The only reason it's probably not going to be in Sydney this year, well, it's not going to be in Sydney this year is because we're in lockdown right now. But overall, man, Suncorp will get it. If New Zealand gets it, that's great. But I still think Suncorp's going to get it, and I think that it'll go to the MCG before it would go to New Zealand. But I would prefer New Zealand over the MCG. I don't like NRL being played at the MCG. I was there for an Origin game. I don't like the NRL at the MCG. It's not a great place. But yeah, in regards to this year, I don't understand how you think the Titans, to be fair as well, the Warriors to be making the grand final. James Morris says, just watch all these Dogs hype train Addo Carr won't be as good due to halves. Hot take. Oh, no, I'm very well aware of what you're saying. Absolutely. I say this every single week. But like I said, guys, I'm not the one who's going to be disappointed when the Dogs don't succeed as much as Dogs fans believe next year. But a lot of Dogs fans are realistic. It's just unfortunately we get people like this who do cry because people think their team's not great right now because it's not really a part of our thinking right now. It's really just about us watching and seeing that this Dogs team just isn't great. I don't understand how people can't actually see it. I don't understand how some Dogs fans can't seem to see it. But yeah, let's move on to the next game, which is the final game of the round, which is the Sharks and the Knights game. Sharks and the Knights. The Sharks are in 8th position. The Knights are in 11th. This is the final game of the round at 4 p.m. on Sunday. $2.75 for the Sharks, $1.45 for the Knights. Now, the Sharks are in 10th. The Knights are... So, it says 8th here. No. It says 8th there. Sharks are in 10th. The Sharks are in 10th. And the Knights are in 9th. I don't know what's going on with that on the screen. No, the previous result was the Knights winning 26-22. Very close game there. The Knights can finish as high as 7th with a win plus a Titans loss and a Raiders loss, but can finish as low as 11th with a loss plus a Dragons win. So they can significantly drop and also significantly jump. But obviously this is a massive game for the Knights because they can put themselves into the 8. However, the Sharks can also finish as high as 7th. They can also finish there with a win, plus a Titans loss and a Raiders loss, but they can drop to 13th rather than 11th. 13th with a loss plus a Dragons win and Warriors and Tigers both win big. They both have to win really significantly there. But both of them can finish the week in 7th, which is massive for them. But obviously, one or the other has to lose, obviously. Will Chambers dropped for being an idiot, and the Knights, like I said, paying $1.45 with a handicap of -6.5. This is a very tough game to read. This is a very, very, very tough game to read. I really don't understand how the Knights are such significant favourites here. I think that the Sharks are pretty... obviously, if you're a team outside of these two teams here. You probably want the Sharks to win because their for and against isn't as good as the Knights. Their for and against is horrific. To be fair with you, you probably want the Knights to win this one, but let's forget about what other teams want. I actually truly believe we could see a shock here, to be honest with you. I really don't understand how the Sharks are massive underdogs here. The Knights are a team that, look, they can win big one week, and then they can lose big the next week. Like, they won, 28-20 over the Broncos last week. A lot of people complained about that, saying that the Knights weren't as good, and they actually were kind of gifted something there. The Sharks did lose 18-16 to the Warriors, and that was very disappointing. So that is something to take into account. The Knights did beat the Rays 34-24 in a great performance by the Knights there. Still gave up 24 points, even though the Rays weren't great. Sharks did lose 40-22 to Manly, but that is Manly. It still scored 22 points against a very good defense in Manly, mind you. Knights lost 28-8 to the Roosters, and Sharks, won 44-24, but still gave up 24 points against the Dogs there. And the final game I'm going to go back to is the Sharks losing 34-18 to the Raiders, and the Knights losing 48-4 to the Storm. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, there's no... Look, Jake Clifford's an okay 6, but they've got Mitchell Pearce there and they've got Ponga there. So I guess they've kind of got a full team-ish now back in the game. A lot of this year has been disappointing from the fact that they haven't had a full team. However, I'm going to take the Sharkies here in a surprise. And I'm going to take them by 2. This is a very 50-50 game here. And I can understand anyone arguing in favour of the Sharks, and I can understand anyone in favour of the Knights here. I think the Sharks will be able to get this win here. I know it's not a home game, but they are. It says the home team, but I don't know why I was about to say they're the home team, because they're not. It's actually at Redcliffe, but mind you, a doubleheader there with the Warriors Dogs. But I'm going to take the Sharkies here. I'm going to take them by 2. If you argue the Knights are going to win this game, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. If you argue the Sharks can win this game, you're not wrong at all. If you argue a draw, I would not be surprised with a draw here, which would be the worst thing ever for anyone who's not the Sharks, Knights. It'd be the worst thing ever for the Titans, Dragons, and Raiders, and arguably Warriors, I guess. Actually, that would officially probably can the Warriors, to be honest with you. The Warriors definitely don't want that to happen. So, look, I'm going to take Sharks by 2. Let me know in the chat what your thoughts are. I think that's a very 50-50 game here, and be very exciting to see that one on the channel on Sunday. Medvedev says, I actually think the Sharks might win this one 24-18, but it's going to be a messy game. It'll be a messy game. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see it as a messy game, this one. Luke Pummer says, Knights never dropped their game against the Sharks from a Sharks fan. All right. Well, then there we have it, guys. The Sharks fans telling us that this must be a bit of a bogey team for them. I'm not too sure. I'm still going to go with the Sharks by 2, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised here. Byron Davidson says Sharks will lose and Knights to win 22-18. Fair enough there. Fair enough. Georgios Adambatsa says got the Knights winning. Tadez McDuffie says Knights will win easy. I wouldn't say easy. I wouldn't go as far as say easy. I don't think anyone wins this game easy. If the Knights win easy, then like the Sharks are gone. The Sharks are gone. Let's actually go and have a look at this ladder here quickly. If the Knights because the Knights have minus 139 points differential, the Sharks have minus 60 points differential. So realistically, the Sharks just need to win to go above the Knights. Not realistically, will just need to win to go above the Knights. They've still got minus 139 points differential. That's on par with the Tigers and the Warriors, mind you. The Knights minus 139, the Warriors are minus 127, and the Tigers are minus 140. So still, I wouldn't be saying they're winning easy against anybody, really. They even played against the Raiders and flogged them, but then only ended up winning by 10. It's crazy. And the Knights are the most inconsistent team in the world, in any sport, realistically. They're just such a strange team. That's why I'm backing the Sharks here, because I just think the Knights are such a strange team that they're going to come and have a shocker here. They're going to have a shocker, but they'll still be within 2. But that's just my opinion. Tadez McDuffie says Knights are full strength, Sharks not. And I still think the Sharks team could match him. Let's go have a look at their lineup here. If we want to go and have a look here at how many players are out for the Sharks. Kennedy's their fullback, that's normal. Sione Katoa and Ronaldo Motala, that's normal as their wingers. Sisifa Talakai and Talakai as centres. With Jesse Ramey as the centres there, that is pretty normal. Contrasting Braden Trindle is relatively normal there for the Sharkies. Yes, they don't have Matty Moylan, but he hasn't been there pretty much all year. Braden Hamlin-Welly and Aaron Woods, their front rowers, that's normal. Blake Brayley is their hooker, that's normal. Nakora, Jack Williams, and Toby Rudolph is pretty normal there. The only thing I'm looking at there is obviously no Will Chambers, but it's actually quite interesting that CSF Talakai is playing in centres there. That's really an interesting movement. Silas McDuffie says, when Knights are full strength, they are awesome. When they were full strength against the Titans in the last game of last year, they lost 36-0. So I would have a massive debate about that one. Alex the Sports Guy says, Talakai can take anyone out. Just have a look at what he did to Parker. I think Talakai is one of my favourite players in the game. Talakai is one of my favourite players in the game, but centre is interesting. And I'm not saying interesting in a bad sense. I'm saying interesting in a gee whiz sense. Like, I actually like this. I like Talakai in the centres. I think there's Bradman, Best, and Man on the other side. Best is strong, but I actually really think seriously without a guy is going to be it's really tough to handle, really really tough to handle for the Knights here. I'm taking the Sharkies. I'm taking it by 2 points. I think that's pretty much all I need to say here. If the Knights win, wouldn't be surprised. 50-50. 50-50. Greasy Gamer says he played centre against Manly and Monster 3 players. That's great. Also lost to Manly. So I wouldn't really refer to that a great deal. But yes, I think that he's going to do really good here at centre against the Knights. But guys, that's going to do us. That's going to do us for this tipping. We went for about an hour and 3 minutes, realistically. I've said realistically a lot on this stream, to be honest with you. But tomorrow, guys, I'll go through the games that we will be streaming this week. So Storm Raiders tomorrow night, absolutely. The Dragons, Panthers, and Broncos, Roosters, we will both do. The Rabbitohs, Titans, obviously, we'll do. I will not be doing Cowboys, Tigers, thankfully, because I'll be doing the All Blacks versus Wallabies game. I'll do Manly versus Eels, obviously, Warriors and Dogs, and Sharks, Knights. So there's only one game I won't be doing this week, and it's the worst game of the lot, which is the Cowboys versus the Tigers game. If it ends up being the greatest, then, cool story. I don't care. Truly, if it's a 1 point game that's so exciting, don't really care still, because it doesn't really have a great deal of impact on the on the league itself. But let me know in the chat, guys, just before I jump off, I want to know what your thoughts are. Actually, you know what? Tell me, I want this video to upload. I want you guys to comment on the actual video itself. I want you to go down there and comment on the actual video itself to let me know if you want to see more of these live stream tipping videos, or you want me to do those 10 to 15 minute tipping videos that I normally would do. Do you prefer this style or do you prefer that style? I want you to comment on the actual video itself, not in the chat, because I'm going to jump off for now. I appreciate you guys as always. Obviously, smack that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and subscribe if you are new around here. We are absolutely pumping out content, and I will be able to return to normal videos as well once I can get this new computer. That's why obviously we have the $5 BKRsport membership in the chat. The link is there. If you can support with $5, I do really appreciate it. Obviously, it's going straight towards buying me a new computer, so I can put a lot more content out for you. Don't forget as well, I do have the Rugby Down Under podcast. So if you haven't seen it, the Rugby Down Under podcast is myself and the Kiwi lads. We have a rugby podcast where we're talking all things international rugby, world rugby, sevens, everything. So jump on Spotify, Rugby Down Under. Episode 3 came out today, and I'm absolutely loving that. So definitely go and check that one out. But alright guys, jumping off, don't forget, comment on the video, let me know your thoughts, thumbs up, subscribe, appreciate you, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, catch you later.